The new Silkrip Mark II ORR computer is a GPS-based unit designed to help competitors win open road challenge events. Two numerical displays. The top one shows the ahead-behind time in hundredths of a second, while the bottom one shows the GPS mileage in thousandths of a mile. The only controls are two switches and a push button, so operation is simple. The unit is easily portable from one vehicle to another. Just plug into the vehicle's power outlet, place the GPS antenna on the dash, and you're ready to go. Turn power on, making sure that the arm clear switch is in the clear position. And then wait for the green power on light to start blinking at a once per second rate, showing that it has acquired the GPS signal. At the start line, when you are within less than 30 seconds before your start time, either at the top of a minute or at the bottom, that is 30 seconds after a minute, move the arm clear switch to the arm position and hit the push button. The red LED will start flashing in sync with the green power on light. Leave the arm clear switch in the arm position. The mileage display will be at 0. At your exit time, your exact start time, the red LED will turn steady and the ahead behind time will display, and you will start down the course. Along the course, you will pass certain waypoints that you have pre-measured and enter into the computer program. As you can see here, we're about 10 seconds behind from the start, but now we're up to speed, and the ahead behind time is holding fairly steady at minus 10 seconds. The mileage is at 1.5 miles and counting. At your convenience, you can move the arm clear switch to the clear position and get ready for the next waypoint. I'll talk more about how to measure these pre-measured waypoints later. As you approach a waypoint, arm the computer and then push the push button exactly when you pass the waypoint. In this example, we're on the Silver State Classic Challenge course down Nevada State Highway 318, and we're passing our first waypoint at mile marker NY28 at 20.174 miles from the start. Pushing the push button as you pass the mile marker NY28 adjusts the computer's mileage, and that minor adjustment is reflected in a slight change in the ahead-behind time. In the case of Silver State events, which incorporate a checkpoint challenge, the mileage adjustments help you zero the checkpoints even when the official mileage of those checkpoints is off from the actual mileage. As you near the finish, the waypoint before the finish, 2 to 3 miles in this case, is quite important. In this example, Lincoln County mile marker LN10 is at 87.568 miles from the 90-mile finish line. So we've armed, and as we near LN10 at 87 90.568, we'll push the push button when we pass it. And then we clear and arm for the finish line. When we cross the finish line, we'll push the push button one final time, and the display will freeze, allowing us to see what our final time was. So we're going to try to get close to 0. It's good when that minus sign is flickering. And so we cross the finish line 1/100th of a second ahead. And we push the push button a little bit late after we cross the finish line at 90.007 instead of 90.000. At this point, you can do a couple of things. One is you can take that 1/100th of a second if it's a two-way event, and you can enter that into your program for the inbound leg as your error out time. It's not much of an error in this case. The other thing you can do is you can read the log, and I'll show you how that works. Arm, push button. This is the start. Clear, arm, and it shows that this is waypoint 0, and the mileage factor is 50,000. Clear, arm, push the push button. At the first waypoint after the start, which was at 20.174, we actually passed it at 20.172, and we were 1/100th of a second ahead. Clear, arm, and the mileage factor adjusts slightly from 50,000 to 50,004. Clear, arm. Then at the next waypoint, we're adjusting to get ready for the flag 3 checkpoint challenge. And in this case, we were 6/100ths ahead at 27.179. Clear, arm. That was number 2. And then just before flag 6, we did another waypoint. We were 8/100ths of a second ahead, and that waypoint was at 55.565, and the actual waypoint was 55.57 something. Clear, arm, slight adjustment to the mileage factor. Then at LN 14, we were 100th of a second ahead, and that was at 83.582. Again, the mileage factor adjusts, in this case, down slightly to 49,999. And then at LN 10, which was the waypoint just before the finish line, we were 3/100ths of a second ahead, and it was at 87.571 instead of 87.568. The mileage factor stays the same, and at the finish line, indeed, we were 1/100th of a second ahead at 90.007. So that's how you read the log. Okay, so how do you measure those waypoints if they're important? Well, you just turn on the box, and instead of hitting the start, you just start going. And as you go and accelerate, the mileage shows on the mileage display in thousandths of a mile. So it's a very good GPS measuring device, and you can use this to measure the course. I recommend that you measure the course from the finish line back up the course. But it's also important, in the case of a checkpoint challenge, to measure from the checkpoint back up the course to maybe a mile or two up the course to a waypoint that you can use, because those official mileages for the checkpoints are not correct. They're not accurate, but they are official. So you have to take that into account and make an adjustment for that. And you do that by adjusting the waypoint mileage just before the checkpoint. So that's how you do it. Silkrip@gmail.com